How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Killmark Collectors. Today is going to be very special because we are going to be looking at 3 different ships, and they're not mine. A couple of days ago, weeks ago, whenever it was, I posted in Discord a new channel that is all about what is your dream ship, asking you guys basically to tell me what ships you would like to see on the test server, some of the mods, some of the different fits, and then to actually try them out in different scenarios. And so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at 3 of those ships, including an Apocalypse Striker, a faction battleship, and a venture that's going to be a battleship hunter. So with that being said, let's dive in. So like I said in the intro here, these are going to be fits that I've taken from Discord from some of you. Now, the 3 ships that we're going to be looking at are going to be an Apocalypse Striker, a Balgorn, and a Venture 4. Now, the Venture 4 is going to be strictly PvP. We're going to be trying to kill a 3 extender battleship, whereas the other ones we're going to be testing out primarily on PvE. So let's go ahead and jump in, and let's start with the Apocalypse Striker. So this fit is going to be coming to us from Immortal Zeus. I think that's how you say your name with all kinds of weird characters. But we're going to be using the Apocalypse Striker. We're going to be going with C-type pulse lasers. I did try beams. I think the pulse are a little bit more fun. I'll tell you why in a minute. The mids are going to be 2 target painters, Predator Web, and a Scrambler, and then the associated MK9 drones. And then finally for the lows, we're going to be using 2 heat sinks, 1 reactive, 1 adaptive hardener, a large micro warp drive, and then 1 C-type large repairer. In terms of rigs, he said megawatt, he meant the capacitor, so I did go ahead and make that update, and then also the DPS rig for the laser. That turned out to be a very important distinction or very important decision, and I'll tell you why in just a few minutes here. Now, for the engineering rig, he does say, show us what you kind of think. This and the Apocalypse Striker in particular, I think the cap engineering rigs are going to be more beneficial than some of the speed rigs. He does ask about nanocores as well. I'm only going to be looking at the thermomagnetic storm core. That's the one that you can buy. And what I did for this one is I looked at the damage and I wanted to figure out what was going to maximize my damage. And so you've got 3 different options here for 12% turret damage, 15% thermal damage, and 15% EM damage. Now, when you do the math to break all of these out, that does come out to be the EM rig is going, or I'm sorry, the EM setting is going to be the most damage increase. That's because with lasers, we're already going to be having high EM damage, and so it actually ends up being more effective to put an EM damage mod on there than it does for us to be using just the 12% damage across the board. It is also really important for you to remember that you will not get 15% damage in EM if you don't have any EM damage. So for example, you can't take a cannon and give it the 15% EM damage and suddenly be getting EM damage. I don't know if that made sense. Anyway, so let's go ahead and jump in here. I really enjoyed this ship. I thought it was a lot of fun to fly. The way that I tested these out is I spawned a level 9 Sansa Inquisitor. The reason for that is that for the Balgorn, the specific ask was to be able to test T9 ships or T9 anomalies. So I went ahead and did that here. Now, this ship as a whole really flew pretty well. I was pretty happy with it. I think the alpha damage was fantastic, and when I was flying it with the pulse lasers as opposed to the beam lasers, you were actually end up getting a little bit more damage, which I thought was really interesting. Now, the thing that was fun on this ship was that for small ships, you would leave off the siege mode, but then once you got all of those cleared out, I was able to actually start hitting those big battleships with siege mode, and ended up doing, I think the most damage I did in one shot was almost 19,000 damage, which was absolutely nuts. This is definitely a fun ship to fly, and it's definitely one that I'm kind of hoping that I'm able to get into. I don't know if the Tempest Striker is going to be similar, but either way, this one was a lot of fun with kind of the management of siege mode and everything else going on. Now, that being said, I did find that the tank on this was pretty abysmal, which is probably not shocking. And the cap management is really, really important here. Now, you can be running the large armor repair for quite some time, but eventually you will run out of cap, and when you're firing with lasers, that's kind of a problem. So if I were to do this again, I probably would go ahead and swap out at least one of those heat sinks for a battery, and potentially throw, instead of the reactive damage mod, go ahead and throw another red hardener on there as well. But overall, a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this ship. It's definitely capable of handling most anomalies, at least at the level 9. And I really enjoyed this. This was a fun ship to fly. So thanks, Immortal. This was a good one. Next up, let's talk about the Balgorn. This fit is coming from Beowulf 359. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but you guys get the gist. For this fit, Beowulf wants to use the C-type pulse lasers, a NOS, a painter. I ended up using a web and an extra web and an extra NOS. And then high resistances for the tank, so 2 armor hardeners. I did go ahead and put a large repair on there, and then a heat sink as well. Now for the rigs, I did go ahead, I added a anti-explosive pump as well as an Trimark armor pump. That armor pump will give me an extra 30% hit point bonus. What that does is just give me a little bit extra tank. With that cold, the defense, the EHP goes up to almost 180,000 EHP. I did then also add a Burst Aerator mod 3. Again, I'm using level 3 mods here because you're flying a faction battleship. Why wouldn't you? I throw Ox Thrusters on Targeting System and Warp Core Optimizer. I like the Targeting System just because if anything does jump in, especially a tackle frigate or something like that, I want to be able to lock him and newt him down as quickly as possible so that I can get out if I need. And then the Ox Thruster just because I personally like a little bit of extra speed. And on a ship like the Balgorn, I'm not worried about my capacitor because I'm just going to drain you anyways. I again jumped into a T9 Soundsound Inquisitor. I had absolutely no problem face tanking this for pretty much everything except the last wave. I think if you were to be flying this in a little bit more collaborative way, let's say with a fleet, kind of like Beowulf mentions here, he wants to be able to clear T9 anomalies and help with some of the lower tier players. I think if he's doing that and he's doing it where he's flying out, he's actually piloting away, orbiting instead of just sitting and face tanking, I don't think this ship would have any problem with it. Now, the one thing I will say that I would be very careful with when you're doing this type of using this type of ship, maybe you want to put a second repair on there as opposed to having a damage mod, especially if you are going to be the primary tank. You're going to have enough people around you that you will likely be able to DPS down other ships. And if you think about it, even if you have like a VNI that's getting 400 or 500 DPS, that's going to be more than the difference that you get passively with having this armor repairs. If I'm looking at it cold, I'm only getting about 100 extra DPS, maybe a little bit more than that, versus again, if even there's a low level player that's got a VNI or something like that, they are going to be getting more DPS with that ship than I would here. So I would probably go ahead and put a second repair. If you do that, you may want to again switch out one of these webs for another NOS. That way you're basically getting back all of the cap from running both repairs each time all 3 of those NOSes cycle. Again, it's not going to quite be there, but it's going to be pretty close. The last ship was really a fun one because this is coming from Levin Al-Arkati. I apologize, Levin. I am probably butchering that horribly, and you can just call me out on it later. So, not bad. So Levin is looking for a Venture 4 small C-type torpedoes, MK9 Warriors, Predator Warp Scram, Virkolakalakalus, Energy Nosferatu, and then in the lows we're going to put an Afterburner, C-type small capacitor, medium shield battery, and then also the combat rigs. We're basically going to be putting the mods on to give us a boost to the amount of shield boost, and then the capacitor safeguard to make that a little bit more efficient, take a little bit less cap. And then to round it all out, we're going to be putting the bay loading accelerators to give us a little bit extra DPS. Now for the engineering rigs, again, we're going to be putting the capacitor control circuit, the warp core optimizer 3, and the aux 3. And again, he is theoretically looking to be able to beat a triple extender battleship if given enough time. He says he did try it out on the test server. The initial results about first 5 minutes looks promising, but he only had 5 minutes. So with that, I went ahead and I set this up against my Tempest. This is the Tempest that this is the Tempest build, I should say, that I use on the real server if I'm going to go triple extender. So it will give you a little bit of an idea of kind of how this looks. Now, I want to caveat this by saying that when he says, if given enough time, I think that he has a gift for understatement here. I tried this out for about 20 minutes and just running the extenders periodically. You can, if you've got the skills for the cap and all of that stuff, the most that I ever got down to was about 50 or 60%. Realistically, this is enough time for me as the battleship pilot to go to Best Buy, buy another tablet, come back home, set it up, sign in, set up a new character, go through the tutorial, grab a cheap ship with a scram and a couple of webs on, and then warp out, warp to my battleship, get that Venture 4 pinned down, and then let the battleship blow it up. This particular build, I love the creativity, don't get me wrong, I really do. But I don't think you have quite enough DPS to really be able to hunt a battleship like you're saying. I would actually, if I'm going to be trying this out, I would probably still stay with the torpedoes. I like the energy Nosferatu. I'd probably swap the capacitor battery for a ballistic control if you can get it on there. And then for the rigs, rather than the core capacitor safeguard, I might actually put another damage mod on there. And the reason I say that is because when I was doing this and testing this out, the only time I got hit was when the enemy drones were there, or when the enemy drones were on me. And so if you're fighting a battleship pilot and you can kill those drones, I think that you'd be able to just pulse your shield booster every now and then when you get a weird glancing hit or something like that. And so I think that you'd be better off actually using that rig slot for damage rather than capacitor. And then instead of the warp core optimizer, again, I would probably actually go ahead and throw maybe another semiconductor or another aux rig on there. Because to be perfectly honest, you should be able to outrun a battleship, and if a small frigate or something like that comes in, you're probably going to be hosed regardless. Just assuming that the battleship has you scrammed, and then if somebody else jumps in and has you scrammed, 3 points is probably not going to be enough regardless. So I'd probably go ahead and swap that out. But either way, I love the creativity, and like I said, it was a fun build to try out, and I really just kind of want to go try this now, if I'm being honest. I don't have the industrial ship command skills, but it tempts me enough that I might want to go and actually try it out. Well, guys, that's it. That's the 3 ships that you all wanted to see. I hope that you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. It was a lot of fun to just try some of these random things and just kind of see how well they worked. So I really do appreciate it for you guys in Discord. If you guys are interested, again, in seeing maybe one of your dream ships on this channel, be sure to go into the Discord. I'll leave the link down below. and drop me kind of a rundown of what you're looking for and what you want to do, and then we'll be able to go from there. As always, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, say how I'm an idiot, say how I'm a genius. Probably going to be more of the first and then the second, but it's fine. Either way, thanks so much for joining. I really appreciate the time and the support of the channel, and until next time, fly safe.